Welcome to the Rangers Today Baseball Podcast. From the bus leagues to the big leagues, the Rangers Today Baseball Podcast has got you covered. Here's Jeff and John. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Today Baseball Podcast. This is episode number 114, and today Eric Nadel is going to join us the day before they run it back. Opening day is tomorrow. This is brought to you by Premier Properties, who did all of spring training for us. Premier Properties, they're your real estate company, can do anything, whether you're buying, selling, if you're leasing something, or you want to find something to lease. Premier Properties can help you. They're a property management company along with being a full real estate company. If you want to know any information about Premier Properties, and we certainly appreciate the help with them for spring training, go to swdallasrealty.com. That's SW like Southwest, DallasRealty.com, or you can DM me on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere you see me on socials. It's always at Recliner Nerd. Just get me a message, say you need some real estate help. Be happy to help you because that's my day gig and things I do other than this. And I know how to do it, and I've done it for 21 years. Now, we got to get into baseball. Eric's going to join us. This is a big one for me.
I know, you're like a little kid on Christmas here.
Now, I know Eric. We see Eric. For 5 years I've met and talked to Eric, but I've never interviewed him.
Yeah.
And I've got wild stories. You're going to hear them then. I'm not going to bring them up till Eric comes on, but I got a few stories about Eric.
I don't know if I've ever interviewed Eric. I mean, it's just, how often do you interview
we see him
a fellow media member? And, we've obviously talked a ton, but.
Yeah, we're sitting there talking to him on the field. We're talking to him.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll ask him about the ball club going into the season, but season is hours away. I guess
he's a Ford Frick Award winner. He's a Hall of Famer.
We got to talk about baseball.
Okay.
So I think So tomorrow, Thursday, opening night. I'm still going to call it opening day.
We're going to do some predictions.
Rangers Cubs.
Yes.
Nathan Eovaldi will be facing Justin Steele, a left-hander. Since our last show with Wyatt Langford has been told he will be on the Major League roster.
Number 36.
He's going to be number 36, an upgrade from 82. I wish he'd kept 82, kind of.
He's kind of cool.
He's kind of built like a speedy little,
slot back, a fullback, slot back.
H-back, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, I guess that's the biggest news. The biggest news, although, again, we all expected it, is that Wyatt Langford is going to be on the Major League roster. He could bat third. Honestly, on opening day, his first Major League game could be as the number 3 hitter behind Corey Seager. The Cubs are throwing a left-hander, so they probably will be moving Evan Carter out of that spot. If Jared Walsh makes the roster, which it seems apparent at this point, I think Ezekiel Duran could be at first base. So there will be some minor changes that the Rangers that Bruce Bochy's going to make to the lineup. But it's entirely possible that Wyatt Langford opens his career as the 3-hole hitter on the reigning world champions, which is ridiculous. And now everybody,
especially with the left-hander on the mound,
and now people are catching on. Jeff Passan was in camp early. He wrote the first story about the greatness of Wyatt Langford, and now Ken Rosenthal, who made it to the last day of camp, he's out with a story. A lot of people are catching on to it and seeing, they're believing it, and seeing is believing. He had an unbelievable spring against pitchers he's never seen before. I think that's going to be a challenge for him, getting to know the pitchers. They have to get to know him though, and so it may be a wash, but you're looking at, in theory, on paper, a superstar.
Yeah, really, and honestly, and look, there will be lulls. There will be times when he goes in a little funk as he's getting adjusted to this. He's going to play more baseball this year than he has ever played in his life, 162-game season. But I'm telling you right now, with what you're seeing, I don't think he's kind of like Seager, I think. I hope he is. We'll see. But I don't want to oversell it, because if this guy ends up just being, just a good player, you take what you get, a good serviceable player. But I think he's going to be more than that. Seager never goes in a huge slump. He always somehow gets himself back out of it when he goes on. But every player, I don't care who you are, from Ohtani all the way down, they go through a streak at some point during the season where they're not seeing the ball. But it's the bats that count. And that's when he started out. They could see the at-bats, even though he had 7 strikeouts in his first 8 at-bats in spring. But they never wavered. I mean, they saw he was getting into counts and doing it and doing that. But I tell you what, he's impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no way to look at it.
He's a tremendous athlete, and I think to your point about long slumps, he's going to beat out some infield hits. I mean, he can flat motor, and you also said something. The Seager, the guy's going to draw all kinds of people are going to be comparing him, and right now people are comparing him to Mike Trout. And I think it's
premature.
It's premature. I mean, there's similar body types. Trout's probably a little bit faster, but that's kind of where people's minds jump to. I don't want to compare him to anybody. I just want him to go out and be at Wyatt Langford and do just have people can start comparing other players to Wyatt Langford. I just think that comps are so unfair, and T.R. Sullivan's a big believer on this one. At one point. Honestly, I believe it was Drew Robinson who the Rangers took in the second round. I don't know. I don't remember what year, but people were comparing him to George Brett. It's like, come on now. Yeah. Let's be a little bit more realistic. At least find a contemporary guy, not somebody who's in the Hall of Fame. You don't want to give these guys expectations that they feel like they have to live up to. And I don't know that Wyatt gives 2 turds about what people are saying about him. He seems pretty relaxed and
even keel,
whatever, and aw shucks, and hopefully it stays that way. I just think that he's kind of able to be in a spot where he's just going to he's smart enough to let his talent take over, and there's a lot of talent.
Yep. And what's funny in the Trout comparison, which I'm not giving him a total Trout comparison, but what I'm saying is Trout's weakest, they talk about his 5 tools or whatever. His weakest tool was his arm, and I've seen on indications that Wyatt's weakest tool is his arm. He doesn't have a cannon. So, it is funny. The only comparison I see with him he does look like him in the way that they're both just. Boy, they look like they could be middle linebackers for somebody also.
Right.
And do that. And he is fast, and Trout's fast, and all of that. We got to get into the news that has a lot of Ranger fans unease, and we knew it was coming, but they didn't want to believe it, but it happened. Jordan Montgomery is going to be playing for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, sure. And it's a 1-year, $25 million deal with an option that vests for $20 million for next year if he makes 10 starts. Right. All right, so it's $2 and $45, and it could be worth $2 and $50. You wonder. This is 5 months after free agency opened, almost 6. So I guess 5. Yeah, you go back to early November. You go back to the winter meetings in December. The Rangers, Chris Young said, we have the money to sign any free agent. It had to be on a short-term deal.
Right.
And so at the time that they were talking with Jordan Montgomery, I sincerely doubt that Jordan Montgomery was seeking a 2-year, $45 million deal.
He thought he was going to get 5 to 7 years.
Otherwise, the Rangers would have done it in a heartbeat. I think that the way the offseason played out, and at the time, the Rangers they didn't know about the Bally Sports thing and Diamond Sports. They probably had a feeling that they'd be free agents, and were probably concerned about the TV money at that point. They also were concerned about the luxury tax. But I wonder when it became 2 years when Montgomery and the Boris group, the Boris clients started to throw in the towel. When did they say, all right, just get me into a camp? Because the Rangers signed Michael Lorenzen, as we're aware now, which I think we did know on the last show.
Yeah, we did. Well, we did the live show.
No, we knew about it last Thursday.
Yeah,
it hadn't been confirmed, but 1 year, $4.5 million could be worth $7 million for Lorenzen, and that keeps the Rangers under the second luxury tax threshold. And so that's who they got. And Michael Lorenzen is a good pitcher. He's not a World Series hero, and I know that's what a lot of people are upset about. But look, this is the way things work. It is what it is, as players say. It's time to move on. The Rangers clearly have. But I had this conversation with a Rangers, somebody with the Rangers. Couldn't Ray Davis find the money to make this deal? Just take it out of his own pocket, take it out of his own giant checking account,
sure.
and make the deal. And of course he could have. His lifestyle would not have been altered one bit.
No,
he's got so much money, he doesn't know what he's going to do with it. And so, do you just, you're let's say he's about 80 years old, maybe a little older. You can't take it with you. You want to, I'm sure you want to leave your family fine, but $60 million is not gonna kill your kid's inheritance when we're talking about billions of dollars. So right. It's interesting. I mean, he's a businessman. I mean, that's the bottom line. There are other investors in the team. There are a lot of employees, and he, this is how he made his money and how he runs his business, and that's just the way it is. He should have spent more. He should have been willing to sign Jordan Montgomery, but he didn't. And so stop pulling your hair out over it. The Rangers are still a very, very good baseball team. They're going to get better as the season goes along. They have this hot new outfielder who's suddenly the Rookie of the Year favorite over the other young outfielder who is probably another favorite. I mean, this team just won the World Series. They're in a position to do the same thing. The teams in the division who are threatening them are going through the same stuff that they are right now with their rotation. The Mariners just put a guy on Brian Wu just went on the injured list. It's only supposed to be a couple weeks, but a couple weeks always turns into a little bit more.
Yeah.
Jacob deGrom was only supposed to be a couple weeks. So it's the sky has not fallen on the Texas Rangers hardly at all. I don't even, there are a couple clouds up there, but they aren't very dark clouds. And Jordan Montgomery signing with a team in the other league is not a big deal either. So, let's get into the club. The biggest question mark is the rotation. Though, as I've been saying for weeks, month now, the four of the starters
have been set.
They've been set because they pitched they started the majority of the games for the Rangers last year when things were going really well.
Right.
So Evaldi opening day, the order hasn't been set as of yet. That was another thing. Yesterday when we were at the game, before the game, Bruce Bochy said, "All right, after the game, I'm going to tell you everything." And so we get to after the game, and he goes, "All right, well, I can't tell you anything because we haven't told all the players yet, and this, that, and the other." So. So the reports that are out there have yet to be confirmed that Foscue and Mark Church are going to start at AAA. Also, that Jose Urena has been added to the roster, which he needs to be. So those haven't been confirmed yet, despite the reports that are out there. And that's just the way the Rangers operate. They're by the book. It's kind of annoying as a reporter, but whatever. Like the rosters aren't due till Thursday morning, and they're going to wait till Thursday morning to the first minute after that deadline to announce the roster.
So do you think Smith's going to make it?
I think Josh Smith will make the roster. I do.
So Barrero's going to be the odd man out.
I think so. When
he did not do well when he was here.
Okay, he didn't. So the Rangers need to add Wyatt Langford to the 40-man.
And Urena.
They need to add Urena and probably Jared Walsh.
Right. The
first baseman. So that's 3 spots. They have 2 guys
going on the 60.
They have 2 candidates for the 60. Tyler Mahle definitely won't be ready in 60 days. I'm not so sure that's the case with Max Scherzer.
Okay. So they have 2 DFAs.
Max was the last day of spring training. I was walking to the backfields, and he was on the first field closest to the Rangers complex, Nolan Ryan Field, for those familiar with it. He was playing long toss. He was standing on the warning track in left center and throwing the ball to
the opposite corner,
the right field foul line.
Yeah. So he's going foul pole to foul pole?
No, not diagonally. He was in left center and throwing basically in a line parallel with second base.
Okay, and he wasn't in foul territory. He was on the warning track.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I see what you're saying. That's a long throw.
And he was hitting the guy in the chest.
Okay, so that is different.
And the guy he's playing catch with, they had to have a cutoff man to get him the ball back.
Yeah.
That's how far he was throwing it. And then yesterday, Scherzer was throwing on flat ground, going through his delivery and everything. So I think that he's getting geared up to soon be off a mound and potentially be back in late May. The 60-day window would go into late May. So I don't know if Max Scherzer is a surefire candidate for the 60. So if that's the case, they need to DFA 2. Jose Barrero.
Yes. That's
1. All right. Then they got to go find somebody else. And then you start,
Ornelas, you got...
you have Cole Winn. You have Jonathan Ornelas. You have Yuri Rodriguez. You have guys who are talented, but have not. But now that's where this team is. That's where the floor of this team is.
They haven't seized the opportunity.
Well, it's not. They don't have the opportunity.
It's a weed eater.
They don't have the opportunity. So the Rangers are in a spot now where you saw it last year with Ricky Vanasco. Nobody wanted to see Ricky Vanasco go with that arm, but he did, and that's kind of the point where the Rangers are at. If they're going to have to clear roster spots.
But they could have seized the opportunity. You could have gone into spring training.
There were opportunities for Cole Winn, I would say, more than anybody. And I'm not saying that he's out of chances. He pitched well at times this spring.
Right.
And the Rangers don't have a ton of starting pitching depth. So, you do just kind of look and say, like, all right, now maybe Scherzer does go on the 60. Maybe they don't want him to, they want him to not have to worry about beating 60 days. Maybe they just say, hey, 60 days, you got nothing to worry about. Just get ready. Don't push it. We're going to be fine. Maybe they do that as kind of a mental thing for him because he has said that if somebody gives him a deadline, he's going to try to beat it.
Right.
And the back is tricky. So anyway, I don't know, but I do think that the Rangers are going to have to come up with 3 roster spots.
Okay.
And
well, that's apparent. Yeah, so Jared Walsh looks like he is going to make this team, especially with the news of Foscue, which has not been confirmed. But that would seem to say if Foscue is going down, it's because they do want the platoon over there, the left. Yeah. And Walsh has a chance to stay on this team if he can start producing. But other than that, he may be a short-term deal till we get back.
Could be, somebody could flip. I don't know, but it's and these things have a way of working themselves out.
They always
too,
do.
You know, and
it's a nice problem to have when you got this many good quality players. But eventually, it's like Chris Young said it: somebody that deserved to make this team isn't going to.
Yeah, and it looks like it's Mark Church.
Yep. Okay, so here's the deal: we got to do some quick predictions. We're not going to do a rundown of every deal. We're just going to go to each league. Who you think's going to win each league? Who's going to be your 2 wild card teams, and who do you think squares off in the World Series?
Okay.
Let's start with the American League East. Who do you think will win the East?
Orioles.
That's who I've got.
They were good last year, and they're going to be better.
I think the Orioles. I mean, Tampa Bay is always somebody that creeps up on that.
Yeah.
Toronto's okay. I don't think the Yankees are.
I think the Yankees are all right.
Nah, I don't see it. Sorry, but I hate them, so it doesn't matter. Let's go to the Central. I'm Twins?
Yeah, the Twins, I think, are kind of in position to do that, though they lost Sonny Gray, but nobody in the division got much better, you know. So I would say them. Maybe Twins, Guardians, Tigers, kind of, the White Sox are going to be trash. So and the Royals made a lot of changes too. I think
that's a sneaky team.
They could maybe sneak up on you, but I think everybody's chasing the Twins there.
Okay, here's the one. You know what? We're going to do AL West last. Let's go over to the National League to make our picks there. So let's go to the National League. Let's go to the East. I think Phillies maybe coming out of the East.
I think the Braves.
Well, yeah.
I think the Braves are going to run
both of those teams, I think, are playoff teams.
Sure.
I'm going to go Phillies, and I think the Phillies are the ones that are going to leave. Let's go to the Central. I like the Reds.
They're kind of a popular choice. They've had some injuries. Matt McClain has had shoulder surgery, and some people like the upgrades the Cubs made. So I'm I don't know that the Cardinals are going to have another disastrous season like they had last year. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I just think that the pitchers that they signed are veteran guys who know how to get it done, and they did sign Sonny Gray. So, I'm going with the Cardinals.
Now let's go out west. Is it just Dodgers? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the other teams got better. I don't know if the Padres got better. They didn't get a lot worse. The Giants got better with their pitching additions. The Rockies are terrible. I mean, the Diamondbacks, for crying out loud, are going to have a great rotation. Yeah. So I think the Dodgers are just going to be too much. They're going to get Walker Buehler back at some point to go with what they already have. And I mean, they survived a boatload of injuries last year until they couldn't do it anymore, which is in the postseason. But I would say Dodgers, probably Diamondbacks next, just with the young talent the Diamondbacks have, and also the pitching, the upgrades they made to their rotation.
Yep. Okay, so I've got Reds, you've got Dodgers. I mean, I've got Reds, you've got Cubs.
I've got Cardinals.
Oh, you've got Cardinals. You've got Cardinals. I've got Reds. In the East, I've got Philly. You got Atlanta, and in the West, we both got the Dodgers. Who are the two wild card teams? Atlanta.
There's 3 wild card teams.
3. Okay, so you got Atlanta.
You have Atlanta.
I do.
I'll say the Phillies, the Cubs, and the Diamondbacks.
Okay, that's exactly who. I've got Atlanta because I think Phillies are going to win it, and then I think the Cubs are going to play this year for it. I think I'm talking to that Cub guy the other day when I did that show. I think the Cubs are going to be better too, and of course the Diamondbacks. I'm sorry, the Diamondbacks and the Rangers are getting no love from anybody. This is 2 teams went through the playoffs and did it, and neither one of them fell off significantly. You see a lot of teams make it to the World Series and lose a lot of players.
Yeah.
Neither one did.
Yeah.
So I like that. Now we got to go back. So let's go back and revisit the AL. We both in the AL East have the Orioles.
Right.
We both in the AL Central kind of leaning towards the Twins.
Yes.
Let's go to the West.
I'm going to say the Rangers.
So did I. I mean, I know that's homer for me, but for you, that makes me feel good.
Well, I think they're really motivated by the fact that they didn't win it last year. And, the Astros
are still good.
They're still good. They got Josh Hader, which really adds to what was a great bullpen. But they have their own problems. They have some pitching injuries. You never know what injury is going to pop up. I'm still, Kyle Tucker's great. Jordan Alvarez, amazing. Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, very, 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 very good players. Their young shortstop didn't have a great season, so he's going to be better. But they have a new manager, a guy who's never managed before. He's been Espada's been part of them for their whole successful run. I just think that they have some things that they have to overcome, just like the Rangers do. But I just see a ton of motivation on the Rangers to win the division. That's what they keep saying. We didn't win the division.
Okay. And
so I believe that will. I mean, they're good, and they're the reigning world champions.
Exactly. So. Okay, wild card. I'll go with mine first. I think 3 teams are coming out of the West.
Okay.
So I think that Seattle's going to finish second, and Houston, and they're both going to be in the wild card along with the Rays. I think the Rays are going to come out of the East.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I don't see another team coming out of the Central. I don't disagree with you at all. I'll go with that. I can't lodge a good argument for that. Although I think the Rays are a little bit down from what they were last year. But they were still really good, 98 wins.
It beat Toronto then for me if it wasn't the Rays. I still think the Yankees are just going to.
Well, the Garrett Cole thing is a big deal for the Yankees.
Yes, it's huge.
And then they just keep coming up hurt. Aaron Judge seems to be getting hurt a lot. DJ LeMahieu is dealing with something. They did get Juan Soto, and holy cow, is he good?
Never heard of him.
So, but we'll go with the Rays.
Okay,
also.
So who's going to the World Series?
Well, I don't know. I think the Braves are loaded and ready to go back. I think they probably had some serious disappointment last year when they lost to the Phillies early in the division series. They're real good. They added pieces and got better. So I'm going to go Braves in the National League. In the American League, repeating is so hard.
I know.
No team has done it in 20 years. But it's just the way things are setting up for the Rangers. They're going to get better. They have a chance to have a rotation for let's say the postseason of Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer,
Tyler Mahle,
Nathan Eovaldi, and maybe not even Tyler Mahle. Maybe Lorenzen sticks around. Maybe John Gray becomes a guy you can't replace. They're gonna have 4 really good pitchers for their rotation. So
and a good team needs 3 solid starters for the playoffs, but fourth one is just icing on the cake.
You saw it. The Diamondbacks got lucky in the National League Championship Series because they won their game that the bullpen started.
Yeah,
they tried that against the Rangers and it was an utter disaster.
Yeah,
so they didn't have 4 starters, and so anyway, getting back on point here, I really think the Rangers have a chance to at least go back to the World Series. I don't know if they have a chance. They have a chance to win it. Everybody has a chance to win it, but their bullpen is going to be better, and I think that's cannot be overlooked. Their bullpen was so bad last year.
Yeah,
so bad.
Yes,
and now they have some veteran guys, the guys who started last season,
and the ability
are
to
healthy.
Get more.
They pitch so well in the World Series, and then they can go get whoever they want. They have enough talent in the farm system to go get whoever they want, and they might have a starting pitcher who's available to be traded, and they might have a starting pitcher like John Gray, who kicked ass as a reliever in the playoffs,
right?
To go into the postseason. It'd be Alexi Ogando, if you will, on the 2011 team. So it's really hard to pick against the Rangers. It's really hard to pick against the Astros, honestly. So this is Rangers today. I try not to be a homer, but I just think the Rangers are the team to beat.
Now, do you see the Braves beating them?
It'd be a challenge, pitching, but good pitching can silence good bats, but I don't know. There are just so many unknowns and so many. It's so hard to repeat. But the Chiefs did it. It looks like UConn might do it.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the year
of the back-to-backs.
Yeah, but
I think they're gonna. So, in me personally, I think they're gonna come up short. I think the Rangers will make it back to the World Series.
Okay.
But I think the Dodgers, just with everything they've done, it's going to be Dodgers over Rangers, and it will be. I'll tell you this.
So you didn't pick the Braves? You picked the Dodgers?
I picked the Dodgers to win the West.
The National League.
The National League. Yeah,
okay.
Not the West. The National League. I think they're going to win the National League, and I think they're going to win it over the Rangers. And I'm doing that also so I don't jinx anything. But I tell you what, I think the Rangers are going to make every Ranger fan super excited knowing that this is a team that's going to be around.
Yeah,
and I think they're going to dethrone the Astros, and I think it's going to start being a Seattle-Texas battle as Astros get a little older and do that. I mean, they've had a chance. They could have signed Montgomery. They could have signed more. They're still not pulling the trigger on some deals. I've heard Bregman's trying to get his contract extended. Yeah. They're having some issues there. I think Crane might be a little, I don't know. But I hate the Astros. I admit it because I'm a Ranger homer. But I think the Rangers are going to get back to the World Series. I just think the Dodgers are kind of destined to override the Ohtani crap, and they're just going to be a good team.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean,
of course, they can fall short too, which is always funny.
Yeah, it's just so hard to 162 games. So much can happen.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pick a winner. I'm going to go. I'm going to say Braves, Rangers, and
you're not going to pick a winner. Okay, that's good enough. Hey, listen, we got to get Eric in here anyway.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Eric Nadel is going to join us right after this, and then we'll go down in the bus leagues. All right, guys, and joining us right now from his home before this is the day before opening day. It is the Hall of Fame Ford Frick Award winner. And, guys, for me, this is a huge one. I've known and listened to Eric since 1979. I've been a fan since 1974. I know Eric from the press box and all of that, but this is great. I've never got to sit down and talk to him. It's Eric Nadel, part of the Radio Broadcast Hall of Famer. Eric, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing great. Excited for opening day. Can't wait for it to get here.
Was it a short off season, but a good for a good reason? Obviously, are you still riding high, Eric?
I am. It's like we're living in an alternate universe now, where the Rangers are heroes. Ranger fans are happy all the time. Spring training was like a festival of euphoria. Everything touching the Rangers was just filled with ecstasy. And I'm still riding that high. And, it seems every day I talk to somebody who reminds me that, yes, this really happened and where they were when it happened, or, some memory going back to 2011. It's fantastic. And, I'm wondering when it's going to fade, if it's going to fade. But I guess when they start playing for real tomorrow, things are going to change a little bit.
It felt different being in the clubhouse. I mean, this was my 17th spring. It was just different. And it's not because of all the banners and everything. It's like kind of like a weight had been lifted. And now it is a new standard, but it's like, oh, these guys are champs. It was just entirely different for me. Just the feeling.
Completely. Yeah. The vibe is just totally different. There's a vibe of confidence, a vibe of self-assurance. Even the new guys coming in, when you talk to those guys, had an interesting conversation with Andrew Knapp about that, about coming into a clubhouse that's already won. And there definitely is a difference. We always wondered what it would be like if the Rangers actually won, and now we're reaping the benefits.
Yeah. So on November 1st, I left the ballpark. You and Matt Hicks were leaving the ballpark, and shook your hand. 45 years of not winning a World Series. I don't know that I don't think it had sunk in yet, but when did it sink in? I mean, I know you called it live and everything, but it still had to take a little while to process.
Yeah, Jeff, I think it didn't sink in until the parade. And I think that was the day that it really hit me. First of all, I thought, they're going to have a parade in Arlington. How many people are going to drag themselves out to Arlington, for a tiny little glimpse of some players? And I had no idea they would get the kind of turnout that they got, 5 or 6 or 700,000, whatever it was. But to, ride on a float that day and see the joy on people's faces, and then talk to people afterwards, because, you couldn't get out of there for a couple of hours due to the traffic. I just hung around and talked to people who had driven from Oklahoma and from El Paso and from the Valley. And you realize, the impact, this has had on people's lives, and the frustration that people have lived with for so long, particularly those who lived through 2011. And that's the day that it really hit me. And that's the day it really hit me that this year, 2024, was at the very least going to be like a victory lap and something not to be missed. At the end of every season, I give some thought to, maybe this should be my last year. And, after winning it all, what a time that would have been to bow out. But at the parade, I realized I'd be missing out on too much fun to bow out now. That's definitely not the time to do it. And that's the day it really hit me that, yeah, this really did happen.
So what are you going to do with your ring?
That's a great question. We got rings in 2010 and 2011 for winning the pennant, but they really did seem like consolation prizes. In 2010, I actually wore it for a few days. I was having a lot of trouble using my laptop because the ring is so big and clunky that it was hitting 2 keys at once. And so then it went in the safe deposit box. When we got the ring in 2011, after losing to the Cardinals, I didn't want any part of it. It went straight to the safe deposit box, and I don't think I ever wore it. I don't think I ever put it on my finger. This year, having talked to, people whose teams have won, most recently talking to the Red Sox guys this week, I think I'll probably wear it for at least a while so that, all of my friends can see it. and all the people who, want to see it and touch it and, examine it, get a chance to do that. How long that'll be, I guess that's dependent on just, how garish it is, how inconvenient it is to have that big thing on my finger. I'm not a guy who wears a lot of jewelry. So for me, putting any jewelry on is something that'll seem like a burden, but I'll just have to put it on and see how it feels. But I'll definitely wear it at least for a little while.
Yeah, I think, when the Braves won and Wash came to town the next year, he brought it and was carrying it like a little bag and brought it out and showed it to everybody. And it like opened. The ring opened. And so it's outrageous, the ideas they come up with. So, but I mean, it's not wearable. It's just not wearable. You almost need to wear
two fingers.
Do 2 fingers. It's so big.
Yeah, or wear it on a chain.
I mean, it's going
around
to
your neck. As the women do sometimes. That might be the best way to display the thing. The Rangers have really played it close to the vest on what the ring is going to look like. Yeah. Everybody who I talk to is completely in the dark as to what it's going to feature. Is it going to have one of those flip tops like the Braves ring had? I'm very anxious to see it.
Well, Neil. So I guess Neil Liebman's the one that's putting it together, and the reason I say that, when I got to spring training, Neil and Ray were running around on a little golf cart, and I was over by the pitchers warming up, and I saw him, and I always go up and say hi to Mr. Davis and Mr. Liebman, and I said hi to Mr. Davis. I said, "Hey, Neil, how are you?" And he goes, "I feel like a jeweler," is what he said. He goes, "I feel like a jeweler." And I was like, "Oh," and I didn't go any further. I said, "This must be the one getting all the rings together," because he said he'd been going a little crazy there. So I'm excited to see him. I mean, just as a look, there on this podcast and with what Jeff and I do, there is no unabashed. I never let anyone know without a doubt I am a complete Homer and Ranger fan, and Jeff has to be, more down the middle. He's a reporter. He's a journalist. I'm not. I'm a Ranger fan. So this is exciting for me, and that's what makes this show fun. But I can't wait to see him. I'm going to come hit you up and say, I want to see that thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds good. And I don't know when we're going to get ours. We've been told not to expect them on Saturday when the players get them. There will be a ceremony for the front office people in a week or two, and I imagine we'll be included in that.
Okay. All right.
Still neat. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, what a deal. And you earned it, Eric. I mean, you sat through a lot of bad baseball.
I feel like we did it together.
Forget about 2011. What about all those miserable years, the A-Rod years, all the disappointment. I'm glossing over so much and so many characters. How many managers is Bruce Bochy for you?
I think it's 13 or 14. If I'm not mistaken. Kind of depends on how you treat the guys like Tim Bogar and Toby Hara, who are the interim guys. But it's somewhere in that neighborhood, 13 or 14. Yeah. We've had a few different general managers going back to Danny O'Brien and Eddie Robinson and Joe Klein and Tom Grieve and Doug Melvin and John Hart. And
John Daniel,
and finally moving on to John Daniel and Chris Young. Yeah.
What? How? I mean, you interview the manager pretty much every day for the radio show. How is Bruce Bochy unique to? No, just how is he unique? How is he different than all the others?
He's very thoughtful. You never get an answer from him that's just rote. He really listens to the questions. And he's also, really considerate of what I'm trying to do, which is to give fans a little bit more or something a little bit different than what they're getting from the beat writers. And, a lot of times, most of the time, I'll do the interview with Bochy after he's had his session with the beat writers. And I ask a lot of the same questions because it's, those are the key bits of information that we're looking for. But he really does try to give me something a little bit different or a little bit additional, since this is his show. And I think he has a real appreciation for that. And, I think I credit John Miller of the Giants, who did the show with him for all those years in San Francisco, with getting Bochy ready for our show.
Yeah, he's a pro. I mean, he doesn't need to explain himself. I always felt like with Chris Woodward and Jeff Bannister that they felt a need to explain themselves, and maybe it's because they were first time managers. I didn't get that vibe from Wash. Maybe early it was, but like the Bruce Bochy media scrum is 10 minutes tops. We get everything we need from the manager. He knows what we want. And if he can't answer it, he doesn't answer it. And he'll be very nice and tell us about it. But it just seems like he's a pro, but he's a funny guy. I think it's very underrated, his sense of humor.
Yeah, he is funny.
Yeah, very dry, understated sense of humor. And it's great. Yeah. He's got this little chuckle thing that he's got when he does say something that's funny, where he's kind of waiting for the reaction.
So how are the Rangers gonna do it again? How are they gonna repeat, Eric?
Well, I think the big way they're going to repeat is with improved bullpen performance. I think that's going to be the biggest factor. I don't think you're going to see a team that has 30 saves and 33 blown saves again. At least I hope we're not. But with Jose Leclerc healthy and Josh Sborz hopefully having figured it out last year, and the additions of David Robertson and Kirby Yates, I think the Rangers are in much better shape from the 6th or 7th inning on than they were last year. Offensively, I think they're fine, with Langford replacing Garver as the designated hitter. Starting rotation, clearly is the question whether they're a little thin up there or not, and whether they've got the depth to withstand, a couple of injuries to the starting rotation. That seems to be the biggest question. Normally, you go into the season with far more question marks than the Rangers have right now. It's kind of a joy and relief, that the health of the rotation is by far the overriding question.
But it's the question for every team. Sure. I mean, they're not unique. I mean, they do have the guys they're missing have 5 Cy Youngs between them, but still, if they can survive the first 2 months, they're going to be in great shape. And you're right. If the Rangers converted 10 of their blown saves last year, they win the division running away. It's just and I think that's the way the players feel, that they left so much on the table last year. And so it's like, can the Rangers be better? Well, yeah, they can be. If everything is the same, but the bullpen's better, they're a better team.
Exactly.
So I agree with you on that 100%. So I know John's itching over here to ask you some non-baseball questions. So I'm gonna let John take over the Q&A part here.
Well, this is big for me, and I've already touted it earlier when we were talking about it. So Eric goes back to me. I went to my first game, Eric, in 1974. I was 7 years old. So I have followed the Rangers for years. So many nights of listening to Eric and Mark Holtz, Eric and all the you had what's his name in between you and Matt.
Well, you had Victor, you had Steve Busby,
all of those guys, and Eric has been the constant. I was thinking about it this morning on the way here. I was like, one night my girlfriend broke up with me years ago, and I went and sat in a park and listened to a Ranger game, and they had a walk-off, and I was listening to Eric, and for that moment, everything was okay.
Way to go, Eric. Way to get him through.
Pete and Cavilla, I remember doing it. But so many things. Eric came out to this is a neat one. Eric came out to the Lions Club. I used to be a member of the Lions Club in Duncanville. In fact, his wife taught at Central. You've talked about that before. And so he comes out, does a show with the Lions Club, or does a little presentation, and then for our fundraiser, did a deal where we could come sit in the booth with him. And it was him and Victor that were doing it, so I bought it. And we went up there and sat for an inning. Now, here's what nobody knows about Eric. If you've never been in the booth, he's got his scorebook, and he's got against the wall, he's got all these stats. Oh, we get these daily stats. And as he's doing it, he's marking off this. You've got a whole system going. And I remember my uncle, who's going to be here opening day, by the way, he's been a longtime fan too, went to the first game with me. He's only 6 years older, so we're kind of like brothers. We were just saying, we didn't want to say a word. We were like, we feel like we're going to disrupt him if he does this.
Yeah.
But so I've got to ask this, Eric. You've been with us forever. I've been a huge fan. I get to see you at the clubhouse and in the clubhouse and all that. How did you get into this? What did this start as? Were you in college going, I want to be in radio, do sports? How did Eric Nadel get this journey going?
It's hard to believe, but it really started when I was about 7 or 8 years old, where I was riding in the car one day with my dad. I grew up in New York City, and we were listening to a Yankees game. And it was a weekday afternoon game. And it dawned on me that these Yankee announcers were missing work to go to the game that afternoon. And I asked my dad how they got off work. Did they call in sick? Did they get a doctor's note? And my dad, who was a dentist, said, no, that's their job. And I said, so you're going to go to work tomorrow and you're going to pull some teeth and you're going to fill some cavities. And these guys are going to go to Yankee Stadium and watch a game and blah, 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 blah for a couple hours.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, that's right. And I said, Dad, they've got a better job than you do. That's what I want to do. And at that time, there were only 16 teams. There were 8 teams in each league. Mm-hmm. Each team had 2 announcers. And my dad pointed out, there's really only 32 jobs doing this. You maybe ought to take something where your odds are a little bit better. But it's what I wanted to do. And I started making believe I was an announcer, and I had all these board games. All-Star Baseball gave way to Stratomatic and ATBA. We played all those games making believe we were an announcer. When we played stickball in the street or in the schoolyard, I'd make believe I was announcing the games, driving everybody crazy. Finally, my parents got me a cassette. Actually, the first one was a reel-to-reel recorder when I was about 13. So I could turn down the sound on the TV and make believe I was doing the game. And
that's awesome.
I was really lucky when I was in high school. I read about a program at Northwestern University in Evanston outside Chicago for broadcasting students, kids in high school who were interested in being radio announcers. And I applied and got into that. And that actually kind of got me started on my way, so that when I went to college, I went up to the college radio station. I already was trained in, basically how to talk on the radio. I had already started working on losing my regional accent because I was a New York guy and I was talking like this, and trying to broadcast sports talking like this. And I had an FCC license, which you needed then to be the guy who ran a control board. And so when I got to school, I went to Brown University, and we broadcast football, soccer, and hockey. And I immediately got on the broadcast crews for football and hockey. I really didn't know anything about soccer, but I did a lot of college radio, a lot of play-by-play, particularly hockey. And when I graduated, I actually got a job doing minor league hockey in Muskegon, Michigan. And that's really how the whole thing got started.
So Mel Allen is your guy? Was that the guy that you?
I really did. He had the friendliest voice. He would say, "Hello there, everybody," and I was so excited every time he signed on the air. And Red Barber was his partner then, and Red would sign on the air literally by saying, "Hi, friends, Red Barber here at the big ballpark," and they were my friends. And 154 days a year back then, those guys were with me, whether I was riding in the car with my parents or sitting in my room doing my homework or was supposed to be asleep, but had a transistor radio under my pillow. Those guys were my buddies. And then the Mets came in 1962 when I was 11, and they had Lindsey Nelson, who was like the friendliest announcer who ever lived, had this huge smile in his voice, had Lindsey and Bob Murphy doing the games. And they were always super happy to be there, even though the Mets were terrible. They were, they made it sound like the Mets had a team full of all-stars. And I wanted to hang out with those guys too. So, that's kind of what I wanted to do. But in college, we didn't do baseball. And I thought hockey was actually a lot more exciting to broadcast than baseball. So I kind of set my sights on being a hockey announcer, only to wind up in Dallas doing minor league hockey and getting a call from the Rangers one day saying they were looking to hire a young announcer and, was wondering if I was interested in auditioning for the job. And that was back in 1978. And somehow I got hired to start the following year, and I'm still here.
That's great.
My Mel Allen, he was This Week in Baseball.
Oh, yes. That's what I watched.
I mean, I never heard any Yankees broadcasts growing up in Colorado, but This Week in Baseball. And then the other day, I'm just flipping through the channels, and I would turn on The Naked Gun. And, of course, the big baseball scene at the end of The Naked Gun. He's one of the dozen or whatever broadcasters calling the game, and they sneak in his line. How about that? And
how
anyway,
about that?
So,
yeah,
that's pretty great.
Oh, I remember that This Week in Baseball was huge because you would get a glimpse every once in a while of your Rangers. Back when I first started as a Ranger fan, they weren't on TV. And if you ever got to see them, they would play a Saturday afternoon game against the Yankees. And that might be a national broadcast. They'd be wearing those powder blue uniforms. Toby Hare, I remember watching him, and Bump Wills hit the back-to-back inside the park home runs. Yeah. And, I mean, I was 9 or 10, and that was all I lived for. And, I mean, now I'm so blessed today. I get to live my dream of kind of being in the press box. I get to meet these people I've admired, all the writers. Jeff and I became friends. I'm friends with all the writers and all of that. But, okay, so I want to ask something else. Now, the best call you've ever had has got to be when they won the World Series, or a close second would be Game 6 when they went to the World Series or whatever. Take those out of the equation, any World Series. What is the most exciting or call you remember over the years? What's one of the most exciting calls you remember making?
The 3-run homer by Ramon Vasquez in 2007 in Baltimore that got the Rangers to 30 runs in the 9th inning of that 30-3 game, which is the only time in Major League history that a team has scored 30 runs. And that call, because I wouldn't say it was total shock at that point, because by then Vasquez already had, I think, 4 or 5 RBIs, and Jared Saltalamacchia had a half a dozen. Things that were happening in that game didn't normally happen, so I shouldn't have been that surprised. But when Vasquez cleared the wall in right field at Camden Yards with 2 men on to make it 30-3, I pretty much lost it. That was a pretty memorable call. And Victor Rojas was my partner, and he completely lost it. He was banging on the counter and yelling in the background. We both pretty much lost all professionalism at that point and just went nuts.
And Vasquez, he probably, I think he hit 2 homers that game. He probably has 4 in his career.
Yeah,
and it's such a nice guy too. But man, what a crazy deal that was. And then, but was that also the series where they had the postponement of the game because of like a train derailment?
No, it was a different year, but it seemed every year something really weird would happen in Baltimore. Josh Hamilton had his 4 home run game in Baltimore. Right. But the day of that 30-3 game, the really weird thing is it was a doubleheader. There had been a rainout, and it was a doubleheader, and this was game 1 of a doubleheader. And Wash decided that he was going to play the regulars in game 2, and he was going to let all the bench guys play in game 1. So, which is why Vasquez was playing, and Saltalamacchia was playing, and Travis Metcalf was playing, I think, instead of Michael Young. And when he handed the lineup card to Rudy Jaramillo before the game for the hitters meeting, Rudy looked at Wash and said, Wash, this is the kind of lineup that gets managers fired. And then they went out and scored 30 runs. And amazingly, the second game of the doubleheader, which the Rangers won, I think 8-5 or 8-6, took longer than the 30-3 game.
Oh my
so God. It was 2 incredibly long games. And then the Rangers had to fly home and play at home the next night, in 100-degree weather across the street at the old ballpark. But first game of that doubleheader, the 30-3 game, so many weird things about it. With Wes Littleton got a save, for protecting a 27-run lead.
Right.
He pitched 3 innings, so he got a save. And the Rangers were down 3-0 after 3 innings in that game. They actually scored 30 runs in 6 innings, starting in the 4th.
That was the greatest comeback ever.
That's crazy.
All right, I'm going to get one more out of you, but I'm going to let you get out of here. I know there's things going on today, folks, even though that the Rangers aren't playing today. So this one, I'm not going to ask you who was the worst guy to ever cover, who was just a jerk, because Eric's too nice, and he'd probably withhold from doing that. He'll do that off the air. But who are some of the guys, your favorite players to ever cover? They were just professional, fun, always gave you what you needed, and you may have more than one. Maybe it's just one that stands out.
He's going back to 79 here. So
yeah, we're going back 79. I mean, my first favorite player ever was Jeff Burroughs. And so, I mean, but who are some of the guys? I've got my favorites now over the last 5 years. Who are some of the guys?
Well, I would go back to 79 because, that was my first year, and I was 27 years old when that season started. I was actually the same age as most of the players, even younger than some of them. And two of the guys on that team are exactly the same age as me, within days, Buddy Bell and Jim Sundberg. And those guys became really close friends of mine. And it's a whole different relationship than, we have with the players now as members of the media. We would fly on the same plane with those guys. We would go out after the games. We would drink with them. We would go to dinner with them. We would hang out with them. It was a whole different deal. But Buddy and Sonny were two guys I was, extremely close to back then. And it was, it was fun to talk to them. And I was trying to make the transition from being a hockey announcer to a baseball announcer. And they were both really helpful to me. Sonny actually went out of his way before the very first series I did and came over to me and said, I watched the exhibition game that you did, and I understand what you're trying to do, and I'll help you any way I can. And then he gave me a complete scouting report on the Tigers, who the Rangers were going to play in the regular season opener. And that really helped me sound like I knew what I was talking about, which I really didn't at that point. So I go all the way back to those guys. But Charlie Huff was a big favorite of mine, too. He didn't come till the following year, but he was always ready with a funny line, and pitched really well for some bad teams. Nolan was great. All the guys on those late 90s teams, those were probably the last teams where the guys on the club, I considered to be like personal friends who I hung out with. Bobby Witt and John Burkett and Mark McLemore and Dean Palmer and guys like that. Those Rusty Greer, Darren Oliver. Darren was probably the last guy still playing, from that era. And those were the first Ranger teams to make the playoffs. So, I've got a lot of great memories associated with them.
Hey, but before you go, I know your birthday benefit bash is sold out, but how can people still help the Grant Halliburton Foundation and all that you do for them?
Yeah, we've got the event coming up on May 16th. Grant Halliburton Foundation is a nonprofit that supplies mental health education programs and suicide prevention programs for schools. And the concert is for their benefit. Rhett Miller from the old 97s and Leslie Mendelson will be the performers this year. The tickets sold out. We may be releasing some more shortly before the May 16th show. So if you follow me on Twitter or X, it's at Nadel ER, or on Instagram, it's at Rangers Voice. We will update you about that. And we will have an incredible auction, silent and live auction. So the people who aren't going to the show will be able to participate in that too. And we'll have all that information once we get into May, both on Instagram and on Twitter as well. But I'm really looking forward to it. This is the 12th year that we've done it. We've raised a lot of money and a lot of awareness for mental health causes. And, I'm really proud to be associated with it.
Yeah. Well, we here at the foundation at Rangers Today love to have on anybody who has a charity. We talk a ton about Do It for Dirt, which you helped with the idea to have the initial concert. So, we got to spread the word for all the causes.
In fact, Rhett Miller played that initial concert. The first, it was kind of his idea, actually. The night that Richard passed away, Rhett texted me and said, if there's anything that I can do to help, with the family or anything else. And that kind of started the ball rolling in getting us thinking about doing that concert. Wade Bowen played that concert too, and he's doing the national anthem on Thursday night.
Yeah, when we landed when I landed after we left Oakland, when I landed, I had a whole bunch of emails that a whole email chain had started, and we took off from there. So it's fun to be a part of.
I love it.
You wish Richard were still here, but anyway. Thanks for sharing that information because it's important.
I love it, and that's why I love all the charitable organizations and all of that. I didn't know Richard. I read Richard. I didn't know him, but I've gotten to know Kelly and the kids. Kind of with Jeff being on the board, I'm like, what do I need to do? I help stack stuff, and I just volunteer. Help Jared and his cause. If you need help, you can call me anytime, Eric. I'll help. I'm free labor, or I got a pickup truck my son drives. I'll borrow it and haul stuff for you, or do something like that. But I just love it. Look, when players or anybody do this that have some pull and are able to raise money for any cause, I love it. I just think it's fantastic, and I want to, I don't have that pull, so I'll just be that guy over there helping take tickets or whatever over in the corner. So, anything else?
No, let's get him out of here.
Eric, this has been great for me. I know we always say hello and see each other, and we'll see each other again tomorrow at the opening day and all of that, but it's been wonderful for me. I love the story. I'm getting to live a dream, and you lived yours. And so I tell my kids all the time when I've got them in college now, I said, if you can get paid for doing something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And so that's why I've got a son trying to be an actor. I said, go for it. Get your college degree, go for it. But I don't have a spigot that's nonstop. I'll have to turn it off someday. You're going to have to be on your own. Eric, thank you so much. We'll see you out there tomorrow. It's great that they won the World Series for you and me. We've been here the longest. Jeff, forget Jeff. We really appreciate it.
I had a chance to visit yesterday with Rich Price, Hoggy, who runs the umpires room. I think he's the only guy with the Rangers now who's been there longer than I have. And I'd love to recognize him anytime people talk about the people who've suffered through a lot of years before we finally won.
I love Hoggy.
Yeah, that's it. Guys, that's Eric Nadel, Ford Frick Winter Hall of Famer. Guys, right after this, we're going to go down in the bus leagues. All right, guys, big thanks to Eric Nadel for joining us. That was huge for me. Obviously, you could tell how big that was for me. I've known Eric for 5 years back there, but getting to bring some of the old stories up of my adventures with Eric was great. But now it's time to go down in the bus leagues, talk about the minor league stuff. AAA actually, we've talked about it. Opening day's tomorrow. AAA starts Friday.
That's right. The season's longer now, and I don't know, this is the second or the third year of the 155 game schedule, but yeah, they start Friday. When we left the ballpark Tuesday afternoon after the Red Sox game, they had a bus. All the AAA coaches were there, and they were taking a busload of players down. So media day was today at Round Rock, and then they get going on Friday. Should be a really good team. Lots of talent there. We saw with Foscue and Leiter and Mark Church and guys who really made a case to make the roster. Blaine Krim was there a long time. Davis Wenzel left an impression. So this is going to be a really good group at AAA. It's going to look a lot like the team last year, position player wise. Sam Huff. Let's not forget about Sam Huff. So the veterans are going to be sprinkled in. You need them all. Derek Hill, an outfielder who we kind of talked about last show, the great catch that he made there against the Reds in Goodyear. So it should be a really good team. And, it's going to be them, and the Dodgers are always, the Oklahoma City team's always good. I would expect Reno, the Diamondbacks affiliate, to be really good too. So should be interesting. Long season. And again, a lot of these guys that are going to start at AAA are going to be in the major leagues. There's just
Mark
no way
Church for sure.
There's just no way around it. With the way pitchers get hurt and pitchers get tired, and the guys with options need a fresh arm. There's always going to be somebody at AAA who can come up. So
it's funny, I wasn't there yesterday. So you went out there yesterday, but we were both there Monday night. You left a little early, but we were both there before the game, doing all the before game activity. I was over talking. These guys. This final roster's today, right?
Yeah, well, it's not due till Thursday morning at I think 10 a.m. But
They'll know today, probably.
I think they informed the players last night, Tuesday night, and they did not inform the media. So we'll get that news today. But again, we talked about this at the first part. We pretty much know who it is. And
right. Well, Josh Smith didn't know. That was funny because what I did was when I saw some of these guys, just asking them like Smith. Asked them, did you rent a house this year? Did you say no? They bought a house here in Dallas, and I thought they had owned a house in Houston and all of that. And I said, okay, you're going to be living. He goes, well, I guess so. He's still up in the air. And so I guess he hadn't been told whether he made the team. Mark Church was over sitting with me, and, it's funny. You were watching them take those infield drills at the time.
Yeah.
And that was basically who we think everybody's going to be. Mark Church was sitting next to me on the dugout, and I was talking to him about, good spring, all of that. And he goes, yeah, well, we'll find out whether, and he wasn't sure. I never put two and two together. I said, well, if you don't make it right out of spring, you'll be up. He goes, yeah, either way, I'm going to be here this year. Yeah. That's what he said to me and all of that. And I was thinking, I told him, I thought you were going to be there. I said, when I made my prediction the other night on the live show, I thought you were going to be there. He goes, really? And I said, yeah. And then you and I got together to talk, and you said, look at everybody out there running this drill. What did you say exactly? You're like, this looks like the Urena was out there.
Yeah,
and now he's been told he is going to make the team.
Well, we don't know that yet.
I thought I saw that.
I don't know.
Well, it's just like the minor league thing. After the game that night, remember I was telling you after the game, so it had come out that they had sent Foscue and Church down.
Yeah,
and so they went to Bochy, who was like, it was actually what's his name. That was sitting up there, not biased, that we were in Arizona that first year when we were all sitting together. Dave Sessions, who asked him, he goes, minor league transactions showed that Foscue and Church are going down, and you can see Bochy go, okay, we're going to make an official announcement on that tomorrow. That's not, and then I guess yesterday y'all heard they had been sent down, right? When you were out there.
You do see the reports, you see the transaction wires, and the Rangers are very, very by the book.
Right.
So when I said we don't know if Ureña's on the team yet, it's been reported, but until the Rangers tell us, it's not official. And so anyway, but okay. So we talked about the AAA team, AA starts. The rest of them start next week.
When do those rosters get set?
They should come out any minute. Okay. Honestly, and
okay.
They were, when I left Arizona on Saturday, I talked to Ross Fenstermaker, and they were weighing their decisions right then. I think it's pretty clear that some guys like Abby Ortiz is going to be in Frisco. Right. I think that's. He did all he could do in high A.
Cam Cauley, I think, is going to be there.
Cam Cauley, I think, is going to be at Hickory.
You think he's going to start at Hickory?
Yes, and then like the questions are, where does Anthony Gutierrez start? I
would guess Hickory.
I don't know where does Sebastian Walcott start. That could go either way between one of the two A-ball teams. So it's interesting stuff. I think. Skylar Hale's the 4th round pick last year, who from Santa Clara, who's touching 100. He's going to start out at Hickory, I believe, and then the rest of the pitchers are going to
probably starting down
they're all going to start at down east. All the new pitchers will be down east. So I ran into Aiden Curry. He expects to be at Hickory. So those things are going to come out and.
I really thought Cam was going to go to
But they're just temporary assignments. If these guys perform well, they'll get moved up. That's just kind of been what the Rangers have done historically. They did it last year. Like Abby Ortiz just destroyed down east and was called up to Hickory in I think after 5 weeks.
Right.
So, the Rangers reward performance, and I think those guys will, all of them, any of them could do it. So. It'll be fun to see, fun to watch. But yeah, so Round Rock starts this week. I think Frisco's opening day is the 9th. I think they're calling it opening week. They are having a week-long
media day
against
next week.
Corpus Christi. They have a media day next week on the 3rd, which is a Wednesday, and we'll try to make it out to that. So there's just a lot of good stuff going on, and it'll be interesting to watch how these young guys like Jason Morabel, who missed a lot of last year, but has the body of a 22-year-old, even though I think he's only 20. What are the Rangers going to do with him? Will you see Paulino Santana at some point in the Arizona Complex League? So he did not come to Arizona this year. So it seems like he's not on the accelerated path that maybe Gutierrez and Walcott were, but still highly regarded. So it wouldn't be a shock at all to see him stateside this year. So those things all come out here in a day, 2 day later today. Yeah. Check out rangerstoday.com. We'll have it all. $5.99 a month, $60 for the year. If you want to get in for $48, shoot me a message and we'll see what we can do. I'll probably be pretty amenable to that. But we're
coming up on opening day, and that's going to be
yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on.
Well, listen, another thing that might be coming on, we haven't settled on dates. We've kind of targeted a date. Looks like that because we're getting family involved in there. We're going to be in Round Rock. Round Rock wants us to come down and do a show. Obviously, they are sponsors of this podcast. They helped us last year. They're doing it again this year. Great group of folks down there. They love the Rangers Today Baseball podcast. They want us to come down for the weekend and take care of us and do that. We've kind of circled a date, so we're not going to announce it till we get it all together. I've talked to my event coordinator and agent. I think you've talked with yours. And we're trying to settle on that to see if we can do it. But you guys that are down in the Round Rock area that go to a lot of Round Rock games, we would love to see you come out. We'll do a show there live at the stadium. We'll be walking around the stadium during the game. I haven't never seen it, so I'm excited to. Every new stadium, I spend about an inning walking around and getting a good view from every seat, kind of see what's all out there. It's just my thing I do.
Yeah, they've done some renovations, I think, in the off season too. So
Dell Diamond's supposed to be one of the best ones too. I heard it's really nice.
It is. The clubhouses were always small, and I think maybe they've done some work on those. But great place. Chris Almendarez is the president down there. Great guy, of course, owned by the Ryan family and Ryan Sanders baseball. So. It'll be fun.
Maybe a Hall of Famer for a guest. I don't know, but that's he's.
Let's not make any.
We're not making promises. If Nolan Ryan turns us down, it is okay.
Yeah,
we're not going to sweat it at all. He doesn't like to. He didn't even want to do that documentary they did about him. He went kicking and screaming into that thing, but his son finally convinced him to do it. Anyway. Look for that down there. Guys, this has been a great show. Eric Nadel coming on, Hall of Fame, Ford Frick Award winner.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, just amazing. Eric, one of the most genuinely great people walking around that Rangers organization. But we are starting the season. We made a little bit of predictions in the first part of it. Guys, this is it. We're going. It's time to run it back. Until next time. For Jeff Wilson, I'm John Moore. We will see you at the yard.